Hi there, welcome back to the Board Game Specialist. I'm Carla.
And I'm Melanie.
And today we are going to be talking about Card Treat. This was a retreat that I put on at my restaurant for a small amount of people. There was 25 of us there, and we got to eat food and play games and have snacks. It was lovely.
Yes.
Before we get into that and the games we played, we did purchase a few games there because we did have a little small section of like buy and sell. And of course, neither of us can resist that. But what did you get to buy? Or some of the games you got to buy anyway.
Yes, I got to buy quite a few. And then it's got arranged because Travis, who was attending the event, sent me his list ahead of time. Well, he posted it on the group. Nice. And then he messaged me directly, says, hey, you're not answering to my group chat, but I bet you want to buy some of these. So he just messaged me directly. Like, man. So I had like all my shopping done pretty much before I got there. I ended up buying, I think it was like 7 different things from the weekend. So a few from him and a few from that was in the sale pile. I'll talk about 2 games that I purchased. Because a lot of them I bought blind, like I don't know hardly anything about. No. One of them that I purchased was Ubongo. Now, I own Ubongo Extreme. Me and you have played it before. And
yes, we played that. Yeah.
It has like these little hexagon shapes kind of like all connected together. So, and it tells you like the amount of, or which shape to use to do this thing. This is the original Ubongo. So it's more the Tetris shape. But there's an extra level of complexity to it as well because me and Ashley ended up playing it and she whooped my ass, by the way, but because we played it like first thing in the morning.
Ashley played last one at night too?
Yeah, well, we played it on the weekend at Card Treat, the one I purchased, the one with the Tetris shape. But you have the card, they're double-sided, and you just kind of have the same amount of card. You flip it over, and then you have to use these shapes and try to fill it in, but it doesn't tell you which shape to use. You got 7 or 8 different shapes, and you got to keep trying until you can figure out which one you can do the combination to fill. So that's the extra level of difficulty, because the other one, it tells you these are the shapes you're using, fit them in, and it takes forever trying to figure out a way. So then you don't know which shape, you just got to mess around with all of them. Yeah, it was hard. But I always thought, I was like, because the other one was so complicated, and a lot of people in my family was like, I hate this, it's too hard. I was like, well, I wonder if Tetris would be easier. But because you don't know which shape is assigned to it, it kind of isn't. So, but it was cool. So we played, and I think we played, well, just like the round where we played like 7 or 9 cards, and I might have gotten 3 before her. But the rest of the time, like, I'm nowhere near. She's like, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. I was like, oh my God. But so that was one of the games, just a tiny little game because it's like the little travel edition one, like the fun size they call it, which is perfect for taking at conventions and stuff like that. But the next one that I'm going to talk about is a game called Ships. Have you ever played this one?
No, I seen it in your pile, and I was looking for another word connected to ships. Like I thought it was like flip ships, or there's a bunch of games with the word ships in it, but not just ships. So no.
And what's cool with this one is it's a limited edition Martin Wallace game, and Martin Wallace signed the top of the cover of the game, and it's like game number 499 out of 1500. So there's like a little card that kind of comes with like the first edition, authentication and his signature. So yeah, it says limited edition. It looks like it was published in 2016. I did kind of look into this one. It looks really interesting because it plays over 3 eras, but it's all about building up shipping routes like through the ocean and stuff. So you start like in the first era and you end with like steamboats and stuff, right? So it just kind of goes through the 3 eras. So almost like a ship merchant civilization type game or something. So it looks really cool. The game is really heavy. There's a lot to this. But I'm really excited to try it. It kind of just looks like one that would appeal to me. So, and then, signed by the public. I didn't know any of that because I purchased this just with the title, right? I was kind of looking at the different things he sent me on the list. I hadn't seen a picture of this game at all, but I'm very pleased. How about you? What did you get?
Awesome. Well, I got one actually at the retreat and two you brought me that
right.
were technically not from the retreat, but because I bought them there, I'm counting them, or I got them there, I should say. One of them we talked about in my list. And the other two, the one that I actually purchased at the event from our friend Michelle, was Doodle Dash. Now, this is like a Pictionary type game. I haven't totally read the rules, but I kind of know what it's about, where you get a bunch of words and you're all trying to draw, I get, I think 4 words, you get 4 words, you need at least 3 people, but you're all trying to draw your words on these little square dry erase boards. So say I had like boat, cat, cup, and glue. And so I just draw those as quickly as I can. And then I think the first person who's done flips the timer, and then everybody has to try to guess them quickly. Like it's like a race to finish and a race to guess, I think. I don't know exactly how it's played, but it's similar to Pictorica, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Or no, Pictomount. Oh, now I'm forgetting the name, but I'm terrible at these games, but I still love them. Like I've played.
Like them. That's fun.
We used to play Pictionary all the time, and I mean, I was decent then. For some reason now, I can't draw anything. So I've played with Cherry and Ashley these games, and they just howl at my drawings because it's like I'm a 4-year-old drawing stick people and stick animals and everything. So I had seen this like a few years ago, people playing it. It was kind of a little hype a few years ago, and then just kind of stopped, which a lot of party games do, because then you go on to the next one, right? But this one I think will be cool just because it's a race about drawing, so it's going to be even harder because I'm going to be drawing these little stick men really, really fast, so they're going to really look like nothing, but it'll be fun, I think. And I mean, my family, they do like party games, so party games kind of always go well with everyone, gamers, non-gamers alike. Now, the second one I got was, it was interesting because I bought it because I wanted another game that he was saying was for free. If you bought this game, or if you bought a game, this other one was for free. Well, the free one I'm going to talk about in our list, but I purchased Fugitive in order to get this other game. And I had always kind of had my eye on this game. I could never understand it. I kind of would watch a video and still, like, I wasn't totally paying attention, so it didn't really sink in. But I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to get this. So it's a 2-player game, and it's a deduction game. And you have a deck of cards from 0 to 42. And you have a fugitive and a marshal. And the marshal is trying to catch the fugitive. So the fugitive will start with cards 1, 2, 3, and 42. So they have their beginning and end. And then the marshal, I think, gets to grab a few cards. And so the first turn, what the fugitive is trying to do is just trying to place cards down without the marshal guessing what they are. And they can always place a card down and jump 3 steps. So I could put a 1 down, and then I could put a 4, and I could put a 7 down if I had those. Because I'll start with those 4, and then I pick up a random 2. And now there's 3 stacks of cards. I believe it's like 1 to 15, 16 to like kind of 30, and then 31 to like 42 or 43. I can't remember the end number. But so then you can choose any stack you want to pull from. Now, the thing is, if I ended up getting like a 7 and a 12 and then an 18, well, those aren't 3 steps apart. So the thing you can do is either just stall and grab more cards, which gives them an easier chance to find you, or each card also has steps on it. It'll have these little footprints, and it'll have a 1 or 2 step. So I can place down, I could put my number 1 down, and then I could place 2 cards that have 2 steps. That would allow me to jump 4. Now, they don't know what number this is, right? Because they're assuming that it's probably a 1 or 2 or 3. And then they look and they can see the footsteps. So they're like, okay, she's jumping 4. And then I put another one down, and then maybe I don't need to jump to the next one. So then on the marshal's turn, they just have to guess one number. If they're like, okay, I think one of those cards is a 2. And if it is, then we flip it over. And if there was any steps that I played with that card, they get to take them all. So they know those cards are not going to be played. So they have a little dry erase board, and they can cross off all the places that they know, the cards they have in their hand, because obviously I'm not using them, and the ones they've guessed. I haven't played it yet, but it just seems so interesting, and I just love
does sound
deduction.
neat, yeah.
And I have figured, so it's kind of neat because I thought, well, I wonder if who has the more advantage. Is it the fugitive because they have all the knowledge where the marshal doesn't? But it'll be interesting to play. I think it's one of those Tim Fowers games that come in those little like magnetic
the
lock
box was
boxes,
super
and it's
cool.
just perfect for travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's the newer version because I think it used to come in a rectangle box with a brown lid that just said fugitive, like no art on it.
No, this box
really
was really
boring.
Pretty.
Yeah, there was art on it, and it's neat. So
very cool.
So, yeah, hopefully that one will be good. Yes, but let's talk about Card Treat.
Yes,
I had a blast.
Yes,
I think and a lot of people did. I didn't hear any negative, but maybe they didn't come to me with the negative, right? But everybody seemed to have fun, and
it was good.
Maybe they were saying, but it went really well, I think. And
it really did. And it's just kind of talk a bit about how Card Treat all kind of comes. So you had a bunch of games that were scheduled that you could sign up to play.
Yes.
A bunch of people brought games and you had games there. So there was a bunch of games as well that you could play in between, or if you didn't sign up for anything else as well. And then because you hosted it at your restaurant, all the meals were provided as well. So we got to kind of go ahead of time and kind of order what we wanted. And then on the last day, we had like just a bunch of pizzas, which was so good. The food was amazing.
Pizza buffet.
Yeah, I had this like souvlaki, I think, for the first meal. It was so good. That's kind of almost my favorite part of it. Was just like you don't have to worry about meals, you don't have to worry about drinks or snacks. Like it's all provided, and it's amazing. It's super tasty as well. So that was cool. 2-day event. There's a full day Saturday and Sunday. Now my list, I just listed my top 9, or just 9 that I wanted to talk about. And I've just put them in the order that I played. So I didn't order my favorite to least favorite or anything like that. It's just in the order that they got played. How did you do your list?
I did it on Pub Meeple, so it kind of ranked them. I mean, I don't know that the 9 was like, like very bad compared to 1 kind of thing. Like they were all just fun experiences. So it's I wouldn't say it's a true ranking of games. It was just, that's how I did it on Pub Meeple to get them. And numbered.
Also, we should bring up, because this episode was actually supposed to be our top 9 campaign game. And at the time we said, well, we'll do the campaign game and we'll just talk about a few games we played at Card Treat. And after Card Treat's like, no, we need to do a full episode of Card Treat because I can't keep this to just a few games. So our next episode will be our top 9 campaign game, and we decided to do a full Card Treat recap. All right. So we're all caught up now.
We're caught up, yeah. So now you tell me, what was your number 9, or if you had any honorable mentions?
Yeah, so honorable mentions, Yes, I'll say Tempura will be my honorable mention. We played that at your house, actually, because I stayed at your house and a few of us did as well. So, and we were all up by 7, so we're like, well, since we're up anyways and it doesn't start till 9, we ended up playing a couple of games, and Tempura was one of the ones we ended up playing that we said, well, Melanie, teach us this one. And this is one that my family plays all the time. So we got to play it with just a bunch of gamers, and it was neat. And then you just kind of, you have a bunch of cards and you're trying to discard the cards, and they all have like these funny cat characters on it. And you got to play, so if it's a 2, you got to play a 2. If you can't play a 2 because you don't have a 2, then you can play any 2 cards that are the same. One goes on top to discard, and then the next one starts the next pile. And then, so maybe I play 2 5s, and now it's 5s that we need. And then if the next person can't play a 5 and they don't have 2 cards to play, and they don't have an action card that they can activate to do, then they have to draw cards that totals the numbers in the cards in the pile. So if there was like 2 5s already, then they'd have to draw 10 cards, which in a way is good, because if you draw a lot of cards in the beginning, you got a lot of cards in your hand that you can slowly discard, and then you don't have to draw, because you're trying not to draw an indigestion card. And the first person who gets 3 indigestion loses the game. Everybody else wins. So it was neat. It was neat because I talked about this game so much. So it was neat to play it with everybody. So that'd be my honorable mention. I have mine order 1 to 9 just because it's in order that I played. So the first game that I'm going to talk about, and it's a game that you had talked about a few times on our podcast, and I had never played it. And it was the first game I played of the whole weekend, and it was a great one to get started with, and that was Downtown Farmers Market. And it's simple, so it was really neat. Like, first you have these other cards that these kind of, I guess, gold cards that you shuffle, and you do 4 along the top and 4 along the sides, so you create like a grid of 4x4, and these are all on the edges. And then what's going to happen is you have tiles that comes out, and you're going to pick a tile to add into your grid. But like, so some of the goals are like, well, every carrots that are along this line will score 1 point. Or, and I had one was like, you don't want any eggs in here, and if you don't get any eggs, you'll score a bonus 6 points. Or you have to have exactly 9 items in this line, or different things like that. So, and then you take a tile to add to your board somewhere, and then you discard a tile. So I kept discarding your milk because you needed milk. So I would discard the milk tile.
I needed it badly for so many things, yeah.
And then we draw in 2 new tiles, and then you go and pick one and then discard one. And we just do that back and forth until we fill the grid. And then at that point, we just tally up the scores of what we got and to play with more. Like, it's simple. But the artwork is really, like, simple, cartoony, but it's cute. And it was just very satisfying to play. So very simple, but still really thinky, because I'm like, okay, I could, oh no, I don't want eggs over here, but I want eggs over there, but I also want carrots. Do I want to put just an egg there? You know, like, and then kind of trying to decide where you're going to put everything. It was cool. I really enjoyed that one. So that's my number 1, Downtown Farmers Market, which was published in 2022, created by Johan Benvenuto and Alexander Droit.
Yeah, that's a good one. Awesome. Well, my number 9 is Kero, and this one is made by Prospero Hall in 2018. Now, I thought I was writing, I kept looking lower for a name, like a person's name, and then I'm like, well, that's the artist. And I'm like, oh, designer Prospero Hall. So I had to look that up. I had no idea. Yeah. It's a group of people, but I couldn't find their names. So I think it's different people all the time. But I did see some of the games they design. They actually do like Villainous, the Funkoverse. They do like Horrified. And then a lot of the IP games like Jaws. Yeah, Top Gun. So all kinds of things like that. But this one, I would have really thought it was like one of our famous, you know, Knizia or somebody, Phil Walker Harding, or someone who did this game, because it feels like it's a design from a person. It's such a cool game. It's a 2-player game. And now you had talked about this game. I had seen it several times and passed it over just because of the price, and I wasn't sure about it. And then it's funny because this guy in Red Deer was actually selling it for, I think, $25, and I just about bought it. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll play Mel's first and see. And then I walked into Bianca's, which is like our liquidation store that does sell some modern board games, and it was there for $12. So I'm like, oh, wow. Anyway, so this game is so cool. It's basically a dice game that you are rolling constantly on your turn. But the thing is, what you have a timer for the dice, and the timer are these little tanker trucks, and they're so cool because you will flip it upside down and you'll roll your dice, and you're using time, so you can roll as much as you want, except if you roll these fires, those are locked in, but you could keep rolling as much as you want. But if you run out of time, you're done and your turn is nil. So we've played, like I played with Cherry, and then I played with Max, who was at the convention, and we said, like, we'll kind of tell each other if you get close to that time, because, you know, we didn't want to play it like a mean game of it. So anyway, and then once you lock in your dice, you can either buy these cards, or you can put these little discs on these like these tiles that will give you more points at the end of the game, which are kind of an area control, because once this card comes up, then on the tiles, however many you have on there, if you control one, so you'd need to have more than the other person, then you will get that tile. If you're even, nobody gets it. So it's kind of like a fight for that. But the cards that you get, some of them can be like, not upgrades, but they can be like permanent bonuses that you get each round. Or they can just be like, you can get like some more kerosene, which helps you fill your gas. It can be like things that you get, these little, I can't remember what those chips are called. They have a weird name. These little round discs that you flip, and they give you like a really cool bonus as well.
Yeah, I forget what
so that's how you play. But then once you run out of gas, you need to fill up. And the cool thing about filling up is you get to flip your timer over and just let it run as much as you can, while the other person takes all the dice and rolls them and tries to get all fire as fast as they can. So if they get 2 fire, then they lock those and keep rolling. And you can only use one hand. Well, in this game I was playing, I literally rolled almost all fire in my rolls, but also when he was filling gas. So I had a terrible score, but I also made him have to spend a lot of kerosene to fill up. But it was such a cool game. And I'm glad I got it. I had purchased one for the raffle as well. Mm-hmm. And I had hoped he was going to win it because he really liked it. But another friend of ours won, Kayla, I think it was Travis. He had bought all these tickets for all these raffles, and he won like 4 or 5 games, and then he gave a bunch of them away.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
That was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. I'm so glad you got to play that one. Because I enjoy it so much. And I was like, this is just such a cool game. It's such a good game. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. And Max enjoyed it quite a bit. What did Cherry think? Is she a fan of...
She likes it too. Because she's like, we played it. And I'm like, do you think I should put this in? And she's like, oh yeah, you should get one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, it's just so cool with the time element that you're spending your fuel and then the real time dice rolling. And you kind of get that, so I really, really enjoy that one. So that's cool. The second game I played at Card Treat, and this was the first one that I had actually officially signed up to play. So, and that was Castle of Burgundy Special Edition. This one was published in 2023. It's a Stefan Feld game. And I mean, it's published in 2023, but that's the special edition one. This game has been around for a long time. I didn't check when it was first published, but I personally own the original edition, which is very beige, very green on green tone. But I still enjoyed the game quite a bit. But the Castle Burgundy Special Edition, it's special. You have like all the 3D kind of metal castle where you put your castle tiles, and all the tiles that you put onto your board, they're actually kind of thick acrylic tiles, and then like just the heft of the game is just so amazing. And I hadn't played this game in a long time, and it just kind of re-sparked my whole interest in it. It's like, oh yeah, this is such a good game. And a lot of the people that were playing had not played Castle of Burgundy before, so they played it. This was their first time. Plus, we played with the expansion that adds like the vineyard area where you're collecting these special tiles that have... Yeah, and it has like grapes on it, and there's like different levels. And then once you complete a level, you can kind of draw, and because you'll be able to score kind of a clusters of grapes that are the same there as well. It's just so neat to play. It's kind of so satisfying, like, because you roll the 2 dice. Those dice can be spent to either go and collect a tile that's on the board in that section of the main board, and when you get a tile, you bring it onto your reserve section of your board, or you can use those dice to take them from the reserve section onto your own player board on your own map, and then kind of add it there. But then there's also like the different clusters of the different type that you're trying to complete, and when you complete and fill in a full cluster, then you get to score that cluster, and then the earlier you can do that in the game, the more points it's worth. And then you can also use the dice to sell goods that you collect as well. There's a lot going on, but it's not like a super overly complex game per se. I would say having a good teacher would make a difference. If you had somebody that just kind of like, hey, well, you just grab these tiles and put them on, you would struggle for sure. Like, you need to have a good teacher to kind of get the full sense of what this game is like. But it's just so satisfying. It was great. I really enjoyed my play of it. I love the special edition one. I'm going to keep my beige green on green one anyways and continue loving that one. But that's my number 2, Castles of Burgundy special edition.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite games. I love it. And it's interesting to watch people play it for the first time too, with like that if they've never played the game before, and they really liked it. So awesome. My number 8 is Linko, made by Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer in 2014. Now, this game I had purchased because I was going to turn it into another game.
Yeah, right.
I'll explain that later down in the list, but we played it. I brought it there because I thought, well, let's give it a play before I mark it all up. And then I actually really liked it. So I'll just keep it or try to get another copy to turn it into another game. And I'll tell you why when that happens. But this game is, it's kind of a card shedding game, but it's a little bit different. So you start with a whole bunch of cards in your hand, and they are from 1 to, I'm going to think of 13, I think is the highest. And there's 7 or 8 suits. But the funniest part of it was I was explaining the game and it was late at night. So we were just kind of trying to I think it was around 10. We were all pretty tired after the day, but we were trying to kind of perk up a bit to finish the night. And so I was teaching everyone at the table and I was sitting beside my friend Murray. And so right after I was like, okay, so you guys got it? Any questions? And he looks over at me, he goes, my cards have cats on them. Like, that's all he got out of the whole teach. Did you hear anything I said? It was just, maybe it doesn't sound funny, but it was hilarious at the moment because I'm like, hey, everybody,
that was like the joke of the weekend. You guys kept referring to cats for the rest of the weekend as well.
Oh, yeah. Just how he said it. It was like, he had only been staring at the cards and the cats. And they're like links. I think that's what's on the cards, are these links.
Oh, I see, yes.
But they just have a face on the card and then the number. That's all it is. But what you do with these cards is you can play a single card. You can play 2 of one number. You can play 3. You can play 4. And you don't have to follow along what anyone's doing. So I could play 3 3s and then the next person could put a 1 down. And it's like, what? How does that work? But the thing is, all you're trying to do is really get rid of your cards. That's not the only thing. You're trying to get a bigger scoring pile. So what happens is if I put a 2 down and then the person next to me puts a 4 down, well, they've beat my card. So they have the option of taking my card into their hand. And if they don't want to, then then I would have to take it into my hand. Or if I don't want to, then I have to pick up another card. So the whole point is that you're trying to get your hand stronger. And then build up, say he had wanted this, what did I say? I played a 2 or whatever. He had 3 other 2s. So he's like, oh yeah, I'll take that. Now I have 4. And the next time I can just plunk 4 down. It sounds kind of weird because you're not playing you can just play a card and you don't have to beat anybody. But the thing is, once you go around and then say I play 3 8s and 2 people next, the person across from me had 3 5s, well, I would beat them and I choose to either take their cards. If I don't want them, they can choose them or they have to pick up 3 new cards. And there's 10 cards in the middle that are face up, so they can see what's there. So there might be 3 13s there. And they're like, oh, yeah, I want those 3 13s, so I'll grab those and mine just go away. Then there could be another person over here that had 3 7s, so I would also beat them. So you kind of go around the table to see what you've beat and how many cards, that person might have had 1 card left, and now you know that you're making them pick up 3 or pick those back up. It's kind of a very unique card shedding game. I've never played anything like it, and it's really hard to explain. Probably doesn't sound like it makes a whole lot of sense, but it's quite neat. And then at the end, when somebody goes out, you count all the cards that are in front of you, that you've played and no one's taken or made you take, and then you minus the cards in your hand. So, I mean, you could very well have gone out really quick and have no score, because you barely have any down there, or you have, if you didn't have any in front of you, but if you have built up a bunch of scoring cards and gone out, well, then you're going to get, a whole bunch of points. It's quite neat. Like I'm quite happy that I bought it for not the reason that I thought, and I'm going to keep it. And that's Linko. And it's made by like some cool designers, Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kranger.
Right.
So that's a
yeah.
win-win.
I think I've played this one once, like in 2018 when I was attending a game night at Darwins. Because I remember thinking, no, was it that one? Like it sounds like one of those, but we had played a couple that night, and I'm pretty sure that was one of them, and it was cool. I do like those little card games. That just kind of instant win for me.
I know. Me too.
All right.
Yeah.
The third game I'm going to talk about is the second game I had signed up to play. And it's funny, the whole weekend, I couldn't remember what I signed up to play. It wouldn't let me log on for some reason. So I was like, what are you playing next? I was like, I have no idea. It's like, hopefully they'll call me.
I kept telling you, Mel, you're playing this next.
Which all worked out anyways. So I had signed up to play Rolling Heights, which was published in 2023 by John D. Clare. Gotta say, like, there was a lot of brand new games. There are tons of 2023 games that we could play. So it was kind of cool to get, like, access to the great new games. This one's definitely one of them. It was very interesting because you are rolling your meeples. You start with like 2 brown meeples and 2 gray meeples, and you roll them. If they land on their feet, they're your workers. If they land on their feet, they're going to be very productive and give you like 2 resources of what they represent with those ones. If they land on their side, then they're just kind of like half-ass working, so you'll get 1 resource. But if they land on their back, they're just flat out on their back. They're not working. They're not being productive. So you would roll all the meeples, and you can grab the ones that are on their back and re-roll them again. Now, if you ever roll and you've got more than half of your meeple already kind of assigned to do something, and you roll all on their back, then you bust. You got to put aside half of your meeples, and you get like 1 wild token that you could use at a later time, and then you get to just activate half the meeples. So there's a bit of a push your luck element to it there. And then we all have our little box, which is like a little construction site that we roll into. It was super cool. And then you collect your goods. Now the goods that you collect have to be assigned that round. You don't get to keep them. But you can spend some stuff to get tiles, and those tiles gets added to somewhere on this master board, and you kind of branch out from where you're at. If you want to kind of jump away, you got to pay extra to build further. And then each of the tiles that you put on there will have like a different cost. So it could be like this one needs 3 metal cubes and 2 glass cubes to complete, and then when you complete it, it gives you this much points and so on. But it'll also kind of give you new meeples that you can add to your workforce, and then you'll have different meeples that'll provide different resources, some that will give you kind of different abilities. So it was cool. And then these cubes that you get are like little, kind of like Lego cubes. They stack on top of each other. So you're building these little towers, and then once you've completed a building, you put your little colored tower on top. So, the black player completed this one. They got that many points. They get this thing. One thing with it, though, is it was fidgety. It was like as you're stacking, mostly once the board gets really filled, and it was kind of tricky playing. And then we were playing with a teenager that was a little rambunctious, so he would wiggle around and move and knock stuff down a few times. And it's like, oh my God, stay still. We gotta stack these back up. So definitely on the fidgetier side. So because of that, I mean, the gameplay was very interesting. It looked neat to play, but I don't know if that would hold me back from wanting to own this game, or I mean, I definitely would play it again, but it's like, do I want it personally, knowing that I don't know. I don't know if that's a deterrent enough. I guess depends on who I'm playing with. You know, if I'm playing with my youngest son, he would knock the board over a couple times too, I'm sure. If so, I guess it just depends on maybe who I'm playing with. But otherwise, the whole gameplay was really neat. We were talking, it was like, if it was more like Lego and it actually held on, maybe that'd be better. Yeah. But then somebody was commenting, it's like, but maybe Lego wouldn't allow their kind of patent onto it. Like, who knows? Mm-hmm. Who knows the reason why? But I mean, the components were really cool because you had some meeples that are see-through. You had all these different colored meeples, and you have some that are see-through, some that are not. But then they were still kind of indicated in a certain way, so if you were colorblind, you could still distinguish them as well. So that was cool too. But yeah, it was a really neat game. I just don't know if it's one I would personally want to own. And because I'm on the fence, maybe I won't bother, because is it Cherry's copy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has it, so I could just play hers.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to play it with me, because I've dumped or knocked over the whole thing. And Cherry called me Carla Zilla. I am so clumsy that way.
Exactly, like it doesn't take much.
I mean, I like the play of it, but I just knock things over like that.
It doesn't take much to do that, and then like to kind of have to restack everything and figure out where you were, because if you didn't complete your tile, then you might not know, because you can slowly add and then complete on a different turn. So then if everything gets knocked together,
she had remembered everything, thankfully, so we reset it. But I like, for me to have to do that and then there's no way I would remember what it looked like.
Exactly. So that's my one drawback.
I like the rolling of the meeples, though. Really
right,
cool.
That was cool. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool components to this. Maybe replace the pieces with Legos and then it's all good.
Yeah, that's right.
That was my number 3.
My number 7.
We're going
number 7,
opposite,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're going. Okay. Yeah. So my number. Yeah, no, I remember you said you just kind of did them in order. So
yeah.
In case, I guess it would be my number 3 or my number 7, however you want to look at it. But it's Cascadia, made in 2021 by Randy Flynn. Now, I hadn't played this in a while, and I've kind of been waiting because I'm wanting to get the expansion. So I hadn't played it in a while, and I was going to wait till I got it. But to a couple that was there, and I had just kind of met them there. I hadn't played games with them before. Cherry had played with them at Gobfest. They had asked me if I wanted to join them, and I said, yeah, it's perfect. I have a little bit of time before, I think it was right before lunch, and which I need to get out in an hour. And so I'm like, yeah, this is perfect. So we set up Cascadia and we got to play it. And Cascadia is such a nice game. It's a nice, relaxed game. You are just placing these terrain tiles out with matching animals that you can place on them. And how you draft them is you'll have a tile and then you'll have the animal chip and they are lined up. And so you will have to draft like a set. Unless you have these little acorns, then you can grab one from a different tile that you can choose. Now, I had realized I'd been playing this wrong the whole time because we were setting it up and I'm like, oh yeah, we each start. Yeah, maybe you have 2 when you listen to this. I said, we each start with an acorn. And they're like, no, we don't. And I'm like, really? Okay. So we play along. And then as soon as I grabbed a tile with that, and then they had it set up and they had some of the tiles out there that had where you'd get an acorn. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so we've got to put the acorns on those. No. And I'm like, what do you mean? You don't get the acorn until you put the animal on that tile.
Oh, I think I knew that.
I was like, no, I didn't know that. So I was always lining these tiles all up. If they had the acorn, you put an acorn there. As soon as you draft the tile, you get the acorn. So and I'm like, really? And so I kind of look over at the rules because I thought maybe you guys got it wrong, right? Totally me. Read it. I'm like, oh.
Did it change the play very much for properly. You?
Oh yeah, because you get way less acorns, because you only get it once you put the exact animal on there, and not when you get the tile. So I might have had 4 throughout the whole game. Runa still had managed to have a pile of them. I'm like, what the heck? I mean, she grabbed all the tiles, then put the proper animal on, but
Yeah.
It was fun. Like,
That's funny.
It's such a nice, neat game, and I'm really looking forward to the expansion. But yeah, that's my number 7, Cascadia.
I like games like that be like, oh yeah, it's okay, oh yeah, it's okay, and then you just don't play it for a while, and then you was like, okay, fine, let's play this, and then you play it, it's like, oh, this is such a good game.
Yeah.
You just forget almost, right? Nice.
Yeah.
The fourth game that I ended up playing, and that was towards the end of that first day, and that was the Deadlies. So this is a game that was published in 2020 by Paul Saxberg. The first time I played this game was actually the prototype copy that Paul had. And it was really cool, and it was super cool because I won the game. And that was just a prototype. It hadn't been published yet. So we ended up playing this one, and this is a neat game. So it's kind of like Uno improved. So you have all these cards that kind of represents the deadly sins, and on your turn you can play a single card, or you can play a pair, or you can play a run, and then but whatever you put on the top is a card that you would activate, because each of the cards have like a different thing that they'll do. So like one of them will allow you to compare hands with another player. If one of you have like a lust card, then you have to draw a card. But if none of you do, then you get to discard those cards. And the goal is you're trying to discard all of the cards in your hand. And you start with 6. And once you discard all the cards in your hand, you draw back up to 4, and then you play that hand. And once you discard all of those, you draw 2. And when you discard all of those, you win the game. So you're trying to discard all of your hand to reach where you would draw none, and you win the game. But as you play, you'll be drawing cards. You can kind of play things that will make other people draw cards. And each of the different deadly sin kind of has a different aspect to it. Plus, you have like an angel card that with that one is like you have the angel card face up in the middle, and you need to draw the halo card. And then if you play the halo card, it stays in front of you, and you manage to keep it, then on your next turn, or you get to draw the angel card, and then you have to wait your turn. And if you can play the angel card, you discard everything and you go to the next level. And then we had one person get the angel card. And then afterwards, I was playing with Duncan and Max, and then Duncan played a card that made Max swap hands with him, so then he had the angel card, but then he has to wait his turn to be able to play it. And then I had a card that forced Duncan to swap hands with me, so then I had the angel card, and then I had to wait a turn, but then I got to play it and discard my hand. It's just such a neat little card game. The artwork is fabulous. Mackenzie Cox designed a lot of the artwork on that one. So it was just great. Neat. Yeah, like I posted a picture of one of the turtle, because of course there's like, I think it was yeah, exactly. So it was like sloth or something was a little turtle on its back. So I posted a picture of it on Paul's page. I was like, I love that there is a turtle representation in the Deadlies. And then Mackenzie replied, like, you're welcome. It's like, oh, thanks. So, yeah.
Cute.
Yeah, it was cute. So, great game. We played it actually a couple of rounds, and it was just a lot of fun. I hadn't played it in a little while, so it's one of those like, oh, yeah, this is good. So, I'm glad I own it. I'm glad we got to play it. It wasn't my copies that we played. I think it was Duncan's copy that we played, but it was a lot of fun. So, that was the 4th game that I played at Card Treat.
Awesome. I just have to make a comment about Paul. When you said today in our group chat, or it started with Ashley. She has a bunny now. And
she has a bunny.
Yeah, we're training for the race, and I'm like, what is going on? And then you responded like something about Paul. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So
she wants to race her bunny against my turtle.
Yeah, the tortoise and the hare. It took me a bit.
And it's funny.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
When you said you wanted to talk about Paul real quick, I thought you meant Paul Saxberg, the designer. Not Paul, my turtle.
I meant the turtle. Paul's a great guy too, though.
Yes.
Was he named after Paul, the designer?
No, apparently the kids at school all voted, and he was named after Jerome's schoolmates Kai's father.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Right.
That's
so
funny.
They voted at school.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah. So now we have all these tortoise and hare jokes in our, group chat. That is funny. All right. My number 6 is The Gallerist, made in 2015 by Vital Lacerda. Now, this one I've had this for quite a while, and I've used to play it quite often and hadn't played it in a while. So a month or two ago, I pulled it out, played it solo a bit to like relearn it, and then played a 2-player game with Ashley. And I'm like, I want to bring this to Card Treat because this is my favorite Lacerda game. So I put it on the schedule, and then it filled up. And then I knew my friend had a copy. So I said, well, let's add more people that can join if they want. And I'll see if Bernie can bring his. And sure enough, so it filled right up. And so I thought, that's fine. Like, I'll teach, because you can teach one game, everybody can kind of crowd around, and then they go to their tables. Right. Well, I ended up playing one of the games. So I taught everybody and then played one and then kind of went back and forth to the table, which is not easy as I thought it would be. Because it's a complicated game. It's one of his easier ones, but that's not saying much. Because it's a Lacerda game. And I had one little rule wrong the whole time, which I felt bad. Which I don't know how I didn't remember that. But when I played it with Ashley, we did the opposite of it. And then I thought I fixed it, but I didn't fix everything. I won't even say what it is because I don't want to mess anybody up. But it wasn't like a huge deal. It was just one of the couples noticed it after, and they're like, yeah, this is how it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your games could have been quite different. But anyway, so playing back and forth, I did terrible in my game, but I still love it. And I loved watching people learn it for the first time, because I think everybody that I taught, so there were 7 people I taught because there was a 4-player game at each table. Nobody had played it. So it was like first time for everybody. So it did take a little bit longer because there's you have 4 action spots that you can go to. It's a worker placement, but each action spot, there's 2 things you can do. And they are like some of them are a little more complicated than the others. Like it's an art gallery game, and you are gallerists, and you're trying to promote artists, discover artists, buy their art, bring in collectors, and make money. And money is the game. That's points. But there's neat ways of doing all these different things. And you have this one little track on the bottom, which is now I can't remember if it's called influence, because there's so many different names they call, tracks, and they all kind of do the same thing, but they have different names. But this one, you will move up and down with your influence, but you can also use it as money, which is cool because when you are going to use your influence maybe next turn, where you have to go from these pink spots to pink spots. So it's basically 5 points down. Now, if I know I'm going to use that, I might as well use some of the money to get down here, like in between the 2 pink, because I'm going back to the next pink anyway. So it's kind of neat how you can use your money there as well. There's another really unique mechanic, which I don't know if he does in any of his other games, maybe Kanban, because I've never played it, but it's a kick out action. So on your turn, when you move your player pawn, you can leave one of your assistants there. And then if somebody happens to go there on their turn, they're kicking you out, and you can do a kick out action. So you can do that action again. So it's giving you more actions throughout the game, but it's costing you big influence. It's kind of you have to figure out, is it worth it for me to do? And a lot of times it is if you have the influence on the bottom, but it's such a pretty game too. It has the actual art that you're buying is actual art from artists. And the funny thing is Vital Lacerda did some of the art, and you can look in the back of the rule book which ones are from who. And I hadn't even noticed before, but this time as I was reading the rule book, I was like, oh, I'm just kind of flipping through the artists if I knew any. And then I'm like, Vital, he actually did some of the art. One of the pictures is blank. That's the art. I don't even know if that was his. I have to look. And then one is like a white board, I don't know if that's him making fun of. I don't think he would do that, but maybe it wasn't even his. But there's some really neat pieces that are in there, and it's such a cool game. It's my favorite Lacerda, but that's my number 6, Gallerist.
Very nice. Yeah, so it's set up. It was cool. One of them had little easels on the side, and it looked so cool.
That displayed the art that was up for auction. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. My fifth game that I played at the weekend. Now, this is one that I know is on your list just from what you've been saying. And that's the game that we played that morning at your house before we went back to the car treat, and that's Wordsy. This is my favorite word game. I think it's just so forgiving, and it's just neat to play because you have 4 cards on the top that have a number on it, and that's what the letters underneath those will score. So I think it's like 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you put these different lettered cards on underneath it. There'll be 2 numbers underneath the 2, 2 numbers underneath the 3, and so on. And then I played it out, and everybody's like, there's no vowels, Melanie. And they're like starting to worry, like, because so many word games is, these are the letters you have, make words with this. And it's very limiting as to what you can do with it, because you are limited to those letters. This one is very much do whatever you want, use whatever letter you want. You are only going to score the ones that are on the board, but you can spread out whatever you want. So if it's C and T were in 10 or under 5, and you word cat would score you 10 points. And then the word catastrophe, depending on the other letters that were, so if none of the other letters were there, would also score you 10 points. It's just kind of neat as to, it doesn't matter as much how broad your vocabulary is, you still have a fighting chance here. And what's neat is the first person that got a word ready, then you put your pencil down and you flip the timer, and then everybody has that much time until they have to get their word, and then that's done. Pencil down, and we score the letters. And if the other people, so you would kind of note, okay, well, I flipped the timer. So if you're another player that didn't get the timer, but you scored a higher point than the person with the timer, you get a bonus. But then if nobody was able to do that, then the person who got the timer scores the bonus that round. And then you can't draw the timer more than once in a row. So then the timer you couldn't draw next time as well. So kind of neat, keep it even aspect to it. It was just good. I really like this game. That was Wordsy, published in 2017 by Gil Hova. The 5th game played that weekend.
Yeah, I'll just make that my number 5 as well, because that exactly was the game I was going to talk about. And this was a game that I had wanted, and when this guy was selling these games, and that one was going to be the free one, I'm like, what? Yeah, I'll buy anything to get this one free. I had this game before, and I had given it away. There was this school up in the Northwest Territories that was it was a content creator that was collecting games for them to send up, that they were, I think it was during COVID, and they didn't have anything up there, and they wanted to start a game group. So I had packed up a bunch of games, and I don't know why I put that in. I think I was thinking I have so many word games at the time, not realizing that I love, the more I play word games, the more I love them. And so it was gone. I shipped it away, and then thought about it over and over and over through the years, and you can't find it. Like, it's not in print. So I've always looked on the used market, and I finally got it. And then that morning we all got up super early, and we're sitting around the table eating breakfast, and we're like, I said, well, we have an hour and a half. What should we do? Of course, we're all like, yeah, let's play games. And then you suggested that, and I'm like, yeah, let's play it. It was so fun. I love it. And it was neat because our friend Kayla won, and she's like, I've never won a word game ever. I think that's what she had said. I'm like, awesome. Because we all had at least a couple of really good words. And it's neat because, like you said, you don't have to just have the best, longest, most complicated word. You just need to use your letters smartly. Yeah, It's awesome. My number 5, Wordsy.
Yeah, such a great game. All right, the next game on my list here, this is a last one that I signed up to play that weekend. And this is funny because I played it not too long ago at FallCon. So, and then Murray was teaching it, and he's like, oh, you going to play this again? And I was like, yeah, I am, because it's so good. So, and that was Tinner's Trail, published in 2021 by Martin Wallace. And then we ended up having Roberta Taylor played with us as well. She loved it. I think she ended up buying a copy that was being sold that weekend. She's like, okay,
awesome.
I think it's getting sold this weekend. So she was debating because she had to take like the bus back too. She's like, I don't want to have my hands full, but it's just such a good game. So the copy I bought, because I bought it at the auction at FallCon, is the earlier version. Although for being the earlier version, Martin Wallace game, it's actually quite colorful and it has like a bunch of neat components as well. This latest copy is special though. Like it looks a lot more put together and it's just so neat. But it's you're mining. So it's like in England, we're mining for copper and tin. And at the beginning of the round, you kind of roll your dice to see what copper and tin will be selling for. So you kind of set the market for each of those resources. So that's kind of decide, okay, well, I'm really going to try to go for copper more because I'm going to be able to sell them for a really high price right now. But then after that, you'll bid on these plot of lands, at least in the first round, because you can't do anything if you don't have land to mine. And then there's all these different section onto the map, and then be like, okay, well, I'll bid on this one. And each location has like a tile face down that will show how much copper and how much tin is on that location, but as well how much water is on that location. And so let's say we kind of blindly bid. Maybe one of us got the option to see, so one of us might know what's on there. So then the winner of the bid, and we'll flip that over. They see, so we put the copper and the tin cubes on there so we know what resources are on there, and then they put a little mining house on it to show that it belongs to them. So now they're the one who can go and mine there. They purchased the right to the land. When you accomplish that action, setting up a mine was 2 actions. So, and it was really interesting because we all start in a row we have like 10 action points available each round. So that costs 2. So you would move your token over 2 spaces. And if you're the first one to move, then you're going to be 2 spaces at the top. So that's fine. Maybe the next one, they get a miner and add a miner worker to your land they own. That's 1 space. So they would move 1 space. So they would still go before the person who scored the 2 space. Maybe the next one does an auction as well, and they move 2 space. So they move 2 space, but now they're below the first one who got the auction. So in turn order, they would get to go before the other. So the turn order mechanism is really neat. And then at the end, you get to the 10 and be like, okay, well, I'm going to stop now and kind of go and place yourself, like, okay, I pass, and you place yourself into kind of the selling market, because whoever's the first person there gets to sell their goods. Because you sell your good and get money for it, but then you can spend your money to buy victory points. So the more money you make, the more victory points you can buy, but you don't have to, because you might want to save that money for buying land as well and bidding for land. So, but the first person who's at the top in that end of scoring one would score more points per money than the people that are at the bottom. So there's advantage to get there first. But then if you pass too quick, you get to do less action in the action phase. The whole thing is clever. Plus, each of the location I mentioned, there's water. The water is the cost of how much it costs you to get that resource out of the ground, because you got to use your money to be able to mine as well. So if there's 2 waters, then to get each resource to mine is going to cost you $2. But also you can only mine so much depending on your capacity. So if you have a little mine, you get to pull 2. If you have a worker, you get to pull an extra 1. And there's boats and trains that you can add that will add extra mining ability, but like that, the very most that you can pull out is like 4 or 5 resource. And then every time you mine, a water gets added to your location. So it could be that it's becoming more and more expensive to mine the stuff out because you're digging deeper now. But the whole thing is so clever. It is so cool. I really enjoy this game. And that's Tinner's Trail, the 6th game I play, or that I'm listing that weekend.
Right. And did you have a 4-player game? Like it was you, Murray, Roberta?
And
Who was the
Sasha.
fourth? Oh, okay. Nice. Who
Yeah.
ended up winning that game?
It was not me.
Oh,
It was Murray.
Did Sasha
And we
ever
keep
play it? Or was
No,
it?
I think it was everybody's first time except for Murray. And then we've been
Oh,
teasing him.
okay.
It's like, oh yeah, great teacher who wins because,
Yeah.
you know, set the rule. And there was one rule, he's like, oh my God, I am so sorry, I forgot this. Mind you, he wasn't doing it himself, right? But he's like,
Oh,
oh,
okay, good.
it's like, oh, and you win. And he's like, oh my God, I know. So, but yeah. No, it was such a good game. And then I think Sasha's like, okay, and he's like going on Boardgame Bliss and 401 Games, like looking for the game as well.
He likes it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a
He's a
good
clever
game.
player too, so
Mm.
that's what I was interested. Okay.
Yeah, so
well,
I think I
on the
was
note
dead
of
last,
teacher.
then Sasha, then Roberta, and then Murray. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Well, on that note of the teacher winning, I felt bad about this one, but so my number 4 is Darwin's Journey, and this is a game that if you've played it and you're playing with players who haven't, you are going to win quite handily just because of the play. And so by the end, I didn't even score mine because I had played it 4 times and then taught these 3 new people that had never played. And so I felt terrible. But I mean, you're just doing your actions, right? But it's definitely one of the games, your first play, you're not going to score very well. But this one was made in 2023. It's from Simone Luciani and Nestor Mangor. Now, this was one of my Kickstarter ones that I got and had played, and it's just awesome. I love it. There's so much more you can do with it. You can flip the board, and it's a whole new game. I still haven't even explored that. We did add, I think, just one expansion. We added 2. There's a bunch of little we added 2. There's a bunch of little mini things you can add to make it easier, which is the ones I added for this first play for this group. It was still really fun. Like, they loved it. And Bernie, he actually has a copy and hadn't played it, so he got to learn it there. But it's such a neat game. You are exploring, like, your Darwin's, not workers, I'm not going to say workers, crew. You each have a crew, and they have these little wax seals. Each of them will come with 1 wax seal, and you'll have 3 crew members. And you will place them on your board, and you have 1 crew member who has a wild seal. And so he can go to any kind of single seal worker placement spot. And so when you're going to these spots, they have seal requirements. And so if one needs a red, you can put your worker that has assigned to a red in that spot, and you can take that action. Throughout the game, you're trying to build up multiple seals on each of these workers, because once you've completed one of your workers' required seals, then you get this cool bonus on the card, and then you'll flip it over and it's done for the game. That's not the only thing you're doing, is because you're also exploring these little grounds and exploring on boat. And now as you're doing that, you're collecting all these animals that you are discovering. And then you are taking them to the museum, and you are putting them in the museum, and you're getting money for them, and you're getting these book points, which will give you a really cool multiplier at the end of the game. You have all these spots on the board that you can go as a worker. There's some spots that have these round magnifying glasses, and those spots can have multiple workers, but you're going to pay if somebody else is there. There's also these square glass spots you can go to, and everybody can go there and not have to pay. You can have as many as you want. Even yourself can go there more than once. Then you also have these lenses. And you start with 2 on the board, and only 1 person can go there. And those are neutral lenses, but each person has a whole bunch of lenses themselves, and they can upgrade some of these spots that are locked right now, and you can put yours there. And then when somebody else goes there, you'll get $1 every time someone else goes to that spot. The spots are made up in these diaries. So there'll be 6 spots per diary. And as soon as one person is in the diary, if somebody else goes there, they also have to pay. There's little bonuses that you can acquire where it'll be cheaper for you to do that. There's another one where you can get wax seals for free where they are quite expensive. The first row of them is free, and then it's $1, $2, and $3. And that is, you have to work on the seals to complete your crew members. So if you don't have that little bonus where they're free, you're going to be spending a lot of money on these seals. There's just so much going on this game. It came with these player mats that I have, like those, what's the material of player mats?
Neoprene.
I always forget. Neoprene. So it's just gorgeous. The art is really nice. The play is so neat. And I mean, I haven't even looked into half of the stuff that it can change up the game. I think you need to play it a while before you would kind of get bored and have to like add something new. But it's just an awesome game. One of my favorites, and that's Darwin's Journey.
Nice. It did look amazing, like all set up with the mats and very cool. So the next game that we played, or that I played this weekend, was right after Tinner's Trail. And then, so we were all of us, so still Roberta and Sasha and Murray and myself. And then Roberta's like, a game I haven't played yet that I would love to is Fit to Print. So we ended up playing Fit to Print, published in 2023 by Peter McPherson. And this one is cool. So we're publishers. We each have a newspaper that we're publishing, and we all get a little 3D desk. And there's all these different articles that's all face down. And then some are articles, some are pictures, some are ads. And they're all face down in the middle of the table. And then we have our board. And then the first you do this Friday newspaper, and it's a little bit smaller. Then you go to the Saturday one, and then the Sunday's the biggest one on the other side. And you have 4 minutes. You set the timer. And then in that 4 minute, you have to draw the different articles to add onto your table. And if you've ever played Race for the Galaxy, no, what is it? Is it Race for the Galaxy? No, Galaxy Trucker. So if you ever play Galaxy Trucker, it's very much like that when you're building your spaceship. So you grab an ad, you bring it to your desk, you flip it over, and you see what it is. If it's an article, if it's a newspaper, if it's different things, and then you can kind of leave it on your desk and go for one more. But you play one-handed, and you can't flip it on the table. You got to bring it to your desk before you can flip, and whether you put it back or bring more back. And then you're doing this, collecting however many tiles that you think you'll need to fill your paper, because you have no idea how much this paper is actually going to need. The first time I played, I was like, okay, I think I'm good. And then once you're done, you say, okay, I'm doing the layout. So then you start putting these tiles onto your layout, and there's different rules. So you can't have an article next to a same colored articles. They have to not be sharing a side. You can't have pictures next to pictures, and you can't have ads next to ads. And also, all of these things are orientation specific. So you can't put an ad that's up like as vertical as an horizontal ad. Like, it has to fit properly. And you're fitting everything you can in there. And then once you're done, you grab, like, the first person who's done is going to grab like this token that has a big 1 on it, and then a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Because one of the thing that you start with is like your starting goal, and it gives you a special thing that you're trying to do. So could be that you get extra points for pictures, or you get to ignore a certain rule, or it gives you something special you can do. But if you got the first one, on the next round there'll be another bunch of these tiles available. You get first pick at picking the one you want, and then at the end, when you verify, you get to score. So any extra tiles you weren't able to fit, negative points. I didn't have that problem. I didn't have nearly enough tile to fill my paper at all. I had gaps everywhere, which whoever has the biggest gap in your newspaper is going to score -3 points as well. So you're trying to like at least stagger things so it looks kind of full, so you don't have like one big open space. And then you score everything. But then also all of these tiles will have like, excuse me, a happy face and a frowny face as well. And you're trying to have equal amount of kind of drama stuff as happy stuff in your paper so that it's balanced. So, and you would score the difference as negative. So if I had 5 happy face, 3 frowny face, I score -2. And it's just like the whole thing, everything that works out in there is so clever. Plus the ad. The ad has like little dollar symbols on it, and you don't score those at the end of each round until the end of the game. If you are the newspaper company that has generated the least amount of income, your company goes bankrupt, so you don't even get to score. The first time I played this, Amy had way more points than all of us, but she went bankrupt, so she didn't get to score at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so the whole thing is neat. It was a lot of fun. So you do 3 rounds, for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then whoever has the most points, the winner. It was just such a great game. I really enjoyed this. Roberta really liked it as well. Everybody at the table honestly had a great time with that one. Yeah, so that was
Awesome.
Fit to Print.
Yeah, I really like that one too. I feel like this is one of those games, the first time you play it, you're not going to do as well as if other people have played it before. I know the first time I played it, I was totally lost, and I'm like, I didn't even understand the whole pictures, how they worked, because that they had to be next to them, or I didn't pay attention or something. But the second time I played, I did much better. But it's awesome. And I don't know if you probably haven't tried it, but the solo puzzle play in this is really cool because you have to
I haven't.
You sort out, the only thing is you have to dig through all the tiles, and you have certain tiles that you're going to use, and you put them to the side, and then you have to fit them all in there perfectly, I think. Maybe there's a few spots, but it's quite like challenging, but it's a cool little puzzle. Yeah, good choice. All right, my number 3 is Brian Boru, and this is made in Brian Boru, High King of Ireland is the full name. This is made by Pierre Sylvester in 2021. Now, this game I've had my eye on for a while. I've never thought I'd want to own it because it's not something that I would think I would play over and over. Chris, who was there, had suggested, he said, well, Carla, have you played PAX Premiere? And I said, no, but I don't think I have enough time for that. Do you have something you'd want to play that is like maybe an hour or maybe hour 20 minutes? And so he's like, well, look through there and see what you can grab or what you fancy. So I grabbed this one, and it was an hour, 60 to 90 minutes. So I'm like, okay, perfect. We'll play this. And I've kind of wanted to try it. So this is a board game, but it uses trick taking. And so it's like a Viking theme that you are trying to, it's basically an area control. You're trying to like take control of all these different areas as much as you can. But there's other things going on as well. You have these big cards that you're going to use to like win tricks. And if you win the trick, you get to put your little disc on that area that was up for bid or up for winning. And now the neat thing is you can choose, you don't ever have to follow suit in this one. You can choose to win it, or if you can possibly, and you will get the top benefit, and which is usually taking the control, but sometimes it'll also give you money or some other things. Now you could choose to lose it, and on the bottom, you'll get all those benefits. Now, sometimes those benefits are going to help you with other things. So it's kind of interesting because sometimes you're not wanting to win it, because at the bottom, one of the things that's really cool is that it'll allow you to add on to one of your controls already that is connected to it. So you have to pay $5, but then you can add a disc and you're kind of connecting a long spot. Now, the area controls, not countries, but like provinces or whatever, they aren't scored until they've filled up to a certain amount. So they could be sitting there for the whole game and not scored till the end. And then you just don't know what's going to happen from the beginning to the end, who's going to be in that little province. It's quite unique, and I'm really glad I played it. I don't know that I would still own it because I don't know it would get played a lot with my game group. They're not huge trick-taking lovers or area control, which I still don't think of myself as an area control lover, but I do love trick-taking. So I think it's really cool that they put it in a game with that theme as well. And that's my number 3, Brian Boru.
It sounds cool. All right. So the 8th game I played, or that I'm talking about that I played, because I think I played 25 times throughout the weekend. So I played lots. This one here is Next Station London, which is published in 2022 by Matthew Dunstan. So me and Chris ended up playing that one when everybody kind of had staggered over and was just everybody was kind of caught up in a game. So we ended up playing this one, and it was neat. So it's a flip and write game. You have this sheet of paper, and it's like a city, and there's a bunch of these little symbols, and everything is connected with like little gray dotted lines and stuff. And then what's cool too is there's 4 pencils, and yeah, 4 pencils, and you start with a pencil, like a color pencil. So let's say I'm starting with purple, so that means I'm starting from the purple station. And then you flip a card, and it has like a different. Oh, you have it right in front of you there. Yeah. So you flip a card over.
What are the chances I have a sheet of this right in front of me?
She obviously was playing it today. But yeah, so you flip a card and it has a symbol on it. So from the station, then you need to draw a line from that to another stop that's along that route that would meet that logo. So it's a triangle, then be like, okay, well, I'm going to go here down to triangle, and then you draw your line. Then you flip the next one, and you can add on either side until you get like the split line. The split lines allows you to split out somewhere. Otherwise, you're adding to the extent of one side or the other of your station. And every time you cross the river, that's going to give you extra points. And you're trying also to hit as many different districts as you can, and also the most station in one district, because at the end of the round, you're going to score the amount of station in one district, multiplied by the number of different districts that you visited. And I scored horrible. Because he really wiped the floor with me there with this one. And then at the very end of the game, you're also kind of scoring each station that has multiple lines connecting to it. Although you can't cross a line over a line, you can go to a same station, but you can't have one line go over another line otherwise. I didn't realize that was part of the end scoring, so I wasn't trying to do that at all. And I was like, oh, we're scoring that too. Oh, I didn't realize that. So whoops. And then there's some station that has like special kind of spiky on the edge. And then every time you cross one of those, you get to check it off. And I wondered about that. I was like, well, because there's more option to check off than there are of these on the board. Like, can you score them more than once? But I guess if you hit it with a different line, then you could. So it was neat. It's one of those that I was like, I want to rematch. Like, I want to redeem myself. I can do better now that I know how it scores, and I do want to play it again. But it was so neat. Really enjoyed it. And that was Next Station, London.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a sequel to, or now I'm forgetting if that's that's the first one. The next one was Next Station, Tokyo.
Oh, okay, cool.
That was the first one. Yeah, I think I prefer this one to the Tokyo one. But yeah, it's a really neat game. You can play it on BGA too.
Oh,
it's awesome. All right, my number 2 is a game called Magic Trick. And this is made in 2023 by Christopher Way. Now, this game you can't get. I had only heard about it from you at FallCon.
Yeah.
And the discussion at FallCon was like, ooh, I'm going to make my own deck until it comes out kind of thing. So that was why I purchased Linko, because I was going to make this deck for Magic Trick. Not because I'm trying to make my own games and, rip off the designers. No, I will buy this game when I could get a hold of it. It was just for the fact that we could play it until it comes out.
Yeah, we need him to design this or to publish it.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should do that. Anyway, luckily somebody had brought their homebrew copy of it and taught us, and it was awesome. I had been so intrigued because you were saying, oh, it's this trick-taking game where you don't even know what you're playing. And I'm like, what? How does that work? Well, this is how it works. You have, is it 7 suits? Now I can't remember if it's 7 or 8 suits, but on the back of the cards, you can see what suit it is. On the front of the card, you have the suit and the number, just like any other game. Now, you get your hand of cards, and you will just like kind of order them lowest to high. And then you take this card that says highest on top, and you pass that whole hand of cards to the player to your left. So then I get the cards from the player to my right. I place them face down and put the high card where the high one is, and I spread them out. So I know where the highest is. I don't know what any of these cards are. And you start playing to win tricks or lose tricks if you so desire. Now, why I would say that is because it depends on what card you use for a bid card, which again, you don't know which one it is. The nice thing is you don't have to play that the first time. Could you imagine if you had to play it the first time?
Oh, that'd be
But you can
insane.
play it anytime throughout the game. Yeah, you can play it anytime throughout the game. So if I kind of look at my deck and I know this card on the far left is my lowest, and I know the card on the far right is my highest, you can kind of start to deduce what possibly you have. As soon as somebody plays some cards, sometimes you're like, okay, well, if that's that, then I know what this is. And it's so interesting because there's deduction in this game where there's no, I guess there's deduction in all trick taking, but this has got a whole new level of deduction because you can kind of know what other players have too. Because if they pull a card from the middle and it's a 3, which you would do a lot, you would pull thinking it's like a 5 and you pull out a 3, you're like, what? That means all of these are like 2s, 1s, or 0s or something. It was so neat. So you would play a card and then you do have to follow suit, and red is always trump. So it's nice and easy, like things don't change that way, which can really mess up your brain. But so you go around and you play and try to win or lose these tricks. But at some point in the game, you have to play one of your cards as the bid number. So if you think you're gonna, like you already have, say, 4 or 5 tricks, you think, oh, I'm gonna maybe get one more. You might pull that high card out thinking it's like a 6 or 7 and play it down. Oh, it's a 5. I thought I had more higher cards. Well, I guess my highest is 5. I cannot win any more tricks. So then you're just trying to not win tricks. So it's so cool. I just love it. Like I was trying to explain it to my dad this weekend because he's a trick-taking lover. And he was telling me about this trick-taking game he learned. And so I was telling him about this. So I can't wait to be able to show him. But yeah, I was so glad Roberta taught us this one. And that's my number 2, magic trick.
Yeah, magic trick is so cool. And then it was neat to play it again just because I haven't tried to make my own copy. But it's just so neat. It's like, because Duncan ended up playing with us and he's designed a trick taking game. I was like, Duncan, you're going to love this. Sit down.
That's right.
I was like, okay, so it's a trick taking game, but you play blind. And he's like, okay, I'm intrigued. I was like, count me in.
Yeah, it's
such
so
a cool
intriguing.
game. Well, it's like, how is this going to work? But it does. It works. And yeah, so how many times? I think
It does.
3/4 of the time I'm like, okay, but I'm going to take like this 3rd from the top. So it's one of my highest card and flip this over and it's a 4. Like, what? So, wow. And I was after Roberta and I was like, what are you giving me? Like, it's funny. Yeah. All right, the last game I want to talk about that I played. This was also the last game that I played the weekend. And after that, it was like perfect ending to my weekend. And that was Topiary, which was published in 2017, created by Danny Devine. It was neat. Murray taught us this one. It reminded me a lot of photosynthesis, where you're trying to have these ornate trees, and then the taller the tree blocks the view of the smaller trees behind. So you're trying to create this path from like a small tree to a slightly bigger tree to a slightly bigger and then a biggest one. But what's going to happen is on your turn, you have all these tiles like in this grid, and then they're all face down, and except for the one in the middle. And of course, the one in the middle was a 1. It's like they're guaranteed you're not going to see this one. This doesn't help at all. But you all have a set of meeples. Now, I want to point out how impressed I was. This game, so my meeple, each of the meeples kind of represent a person in different, like, so the one had like a girl with like flippy curly hair. Mine was a person in a wheelchair. I love that.
Oh, neat.
Like you
That's
never
awesome.
see that. It's so inclusive. I was like, oh my God, I'm playing these ones. I just thought that was amazing. It's the first time I've seen that, and I thought it was so good. So kudos to Topiary for doing it. And then you place your meeple along the edge of this grid, because you're not going in, you just kind of look from the outside. And you can go on the edge, or you can look diagonally on the corner of one of the card, and you would kind of be looking down this corner. So you place your meeple on one row, and then you pick a tile from the row where they have their line of sight, and you would take that tile and look at it, and you have 3 in your hand as well. And then you pick one to play in its place. So be like, okay, well, it's kind of further down the path, so I'm going to put a number 4 tall tree. And these are all like, like carved trees. Like some are carved as a bird or as an elephant or as a circle, and all these ornate type of trees. And you score more if you have similar trees in a row that you can see. They give you bonus points, but then you get points for every tree you can see. So you're not going to put a number 5 tree at the very front of your meeple, because he's not going to see anything else. That's going to be just 1 point. But what's interesting is so I've got that tree down that path, and I want to be able to put more trees in front of it so I can view more trees, but I can't put a meeple next to that one. That path is taken. So then I can go from like the side and try to add in front from the side, or like, so it's a very puzzly game as to where you're going to put the meeple that gives you access to a tile that you can flip so that you can put the tree you need for your other meeple, but then at the same time still create a view that would score for the other meeple. Like it's thinky. It's beautiful. It was really interesting. So that was the last game I played. My number 9, Topiary.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. I thought it was more like a lighter version of Bonsai. Did you ever play Bonsai yet?
Yeah, I played Bonsai. No, we played it at nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Nothing like that. Wow.
No.
And was somebody selling it there?
I don't know if anybody was selling it. It was Murray's copy that we played, maybe so I don't know if he grabbed it from his cell.
Oh, maybe he had it in the library.
Maybe
he had it in the library. Yeah. Oh, neat.
Yeah.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, that was good. You would love it with a tile placement one.
Yeah. No, I love those kind of games. All right. Well, my number 1 was Farshore, made in 2023 by James and Clarissa Wilson. Now, the artist is not Andrew Bonsley, and this was the reason I have not owned it until now, because I was like a little miffed, like, why didn't they get him to do this? Because it's kind of a sequel to Everdell, but the art is done by Jackie Davis, and it is also beautiful. It's different, but it's beautiful. And it's Everdell. 80% of it is Everdell, but there is 20% of it that's different. And it's lovely. I love it. Probably because it's so much like Everdell, but it's awesome. It's like the worker placement, tableau building that is in Everdell with a little bit of a twist. You are placing your workers to get resources, of course, to be able to build these characters or to place these characters into your village, constructions and critters. Now, there's a big difference because in Everdell, you could place a construction down in the bottom right corner. There was a certain critter that would go with it that you could play for free. Whereas now, you only have 3 anchors that you can use to do that. So you can place a construction down, and then depending on the color of the card, that's the color of critter you can play. And you can only do that 3 times a game. So it kind of makes it a little bit stricter that way, but there's other things. There's treasures that you can gain in this game where it's a wild resource, which you don't have wild resources in Everdell. So this was quite neat. And how you gain these treasures, there are some cards that will give you them, but there's this little boat track where you're traveling with one of your little meeples is in the boat, and they look so adorable because you have these little crab and beaver that sit in this little sailboat and they travel around. And so as you're moving this boat, every couple of steps, you're going to collect a treasure. So you're getting these wild tokens every once in a while, and you can keep them throughout the game. If you don't use them, they're worth 2 points at the end of the game, but if you use them, they're a wild resource. Now, how you move this boat is unique because this is not in Everdell as well. You have these little tokens, and one of them will have on it like the type of critter. It'll either be a common or a unique, or it'll be a construction or a critter. And then the other little disc will show the color of the card. So there'll be two things always during a season. And say it was a blue and it said a critter. Now, if you place one of those in your village, that is exactly a blue and a critter, you'll get to move your boat twice. But if you place one of those things, like I placed a blue, but it was a construction, I'll still get to move my boat once. So these boat movements will give you the treasures, but wherever you end up in the boat track, you're going to have those points added on to your score at the end. So it's kind of cool because you are kind of working towards what those discs say, but you're also trying to build your village up and make it the best village, of course, of the game. There's one other little difference, or a couple little differences. One is instead of collecting events, which you do in Everdell, and those are usually you've had certain type of critters or constructions in your tableau, or you have, like, say 4 blue cards, then you could go collect this. Well, now they have these little treasure maps. So you would go and collect them as soon as you could and take one, and they just multiply each other, and that's how they score. They don't have a certain score on them. You get, say I ended up with 4 maps and I got the top maps because they start with a 2 and then they go to a 1 and then go to a 0. So if I had 4 maps with 2 on them, I would have 8 times 4, so that I would add that onto my score. So those are quite important as well. The one little difference too is instead of having the forest action spots to go to, now you have these island action spots because you are on the shore. Now, at the end of the second season, you will flip these and you'll sink half of the tiles. So as the game goes on, there's less spots to go to. The one thing is, just like in Everdell, some of the red cards give you your own personal worker placement spot. So that kind of pushes you to get some of those cards so that in those like 3rd and 4th seasons, then you have more spots to go to. There's easier ways to get cards and trade cards in for resources as well. To me, it's a quicker version of Everdell, but not, I wouldn't say, like, I guess Little Everdell, which has come out, is sort of a quite a simpler version, more of a kid's version of the game, whereas this is a quicker version. I would say, like, it knocks off a half hour, 45 minutes. So when I don't have time to pull out my big collection and set everything up, or, because I usually want to add a couple expansions in, I just want to play it simple, I can just pull this out and we can play it probably in under an hour. But it's awesome and I love it. That's my number 1, Farshore.
So in your opinion, it's worth owning both?
Well, if you're an Everdell lover, like if you're, kind of warm on it, you probably can just do with one of them. But of course, I'm going to probably want everything they ever bring out with it because I love the world they've created for it. And I just love the gameplay. So yeah.
And if somebody had none and we're going to get just one of them, which one would you recommend?
If they had none, it would depend if they wanted to, like, what type of game. If they wanted to have, if they were thinking of buying it for, like, an hour-long game, get Farshore. If you're thinking of getting it and maybe adding on expansions later on, then I would start with actual Everdell. So it would just kind of depend what you're intending it for.
Right.
But yeah. But I think they're going to add a few more because this is the Farshore, which is like a part of the world. I think there's probably going to be a couple more, I'm sure. But
nice.
So yeah, well, that was our weekend of Car Treat.
Yes.
It was fun. I will do it again for sure. Maybe in February, I'm thinking. We'll see how things go. But next week, we are going to do our top 9 campaign legacy games. So you can look forward to that. But until then, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram as Mal's_boardgame_room. My Facebook page is Mal's Board Game Room, and my YouTube channel is Mal's Board Game Room. How about you, Carla? Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at boardgamespecialist, all one word, and I have a Facebook page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. Now we still also have our Discord, which I always will put in the link, and it is a non-expired link now, is what you tell me, right? So
yes, finally,
it'll always be it'll always be on there. But until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.